Before the Challenger disaster, NASA's shuttle program was seen as the future of space travel. It was designed to make launches frequent and affordable using reusable spacecraft. Challenger had already completed 9 successful missions before that. But the public spotlight, especially with Krista McAleef on board, added massive pressure. NASA pushed to stick to launch schedules even when engineers raised safety concerns. This report explores not just what went wrong, but why it went wrong. We look at both the technical and ethical failures guided by the Engineers Act to learn how tragedies like this can be avoided in the future.
So, on January 28, 1986, NASA Challenger shuttles explode 73 seconds after launch, killing all 7 astronauts, including teacher Christian Margolin, who means to be the first civilians in space. The cause of the rubber O-ring failure in the right booster, which became returns due to freezing temperature, engineers from Motor Tokyo, the booster contractor, warned that it was too cold to launch. They initially told NASA to delay, but under pressure management reversed the decision. So on launch day, smoke appeared right after liftoff, and just over a minute, the shuttle disintegrated, and the cabin crew remained intact, but it hits the wall with no chance of survival. The key stakeholders will be NASA, who ignored the warning to meet the schedule, and Tokyo management, who overruled their engineers, and engineers who tried to stop the launch, and the public watched the horror as the tragedy unfolded live. The Challenger disaster remind us that in engineering, ignore safety warning can cost life.
Within technical perspective, investigation concluded the Challenger accident was caused by a joint failure in the right solid rocket booster SRB. The SRB's AFT field joint used a tank and crevice assembly set by 2 rubber O-rings and zinc chromate putty. Ignition pressure is supposed to displace the putty and force the primary O-ring into the gap, sealing it. But if the pressure rise is delayed or the joint gap opens before the seal is set, hot gas can blow by the primary O-ring and erode it before the secondary can seal. This hazard was known. Previous flights had documented O-ring erosion and blow-by. On Challenger, an unusually cold morning about 36 Fahrenheit currently wasn't the problem. Tests showed that at 25 Fahrenheit, a typical joint did not seal unless warm above 55 Fahrenheit. Lower temperature made the O-ring sluggish, brittle, and unresponsive. It remained compressed in the groove and failed to spring back during the critical ignition correction. With the primary seal compromised, hot gases eroded the joint, reached into the external tank, and destroyed the orbiter, as seen at T plus 73 seconds after launch. In short, a flawed joint design and insufficient cold weather testing turned a tiny seal into a catastrophic failure.
The Challenger disaster is one of the most significant ethical failures in engineering history. In the days before the launch, the engineers from Morton Tokyo raised serious concerns about the O-ring seals in the rocket boosters, warning that they could fail in the freezing temperatures. But despite this issue, NASA pressed Tokyo to proceed, and the management overruled their own engineers to avoid delaying the mission. This decision prioritized schedule and political pressure over the public safety, directly violating the core ethical principle that engineers must follow, which is to protect human life above all else. The astronauts were never informed about this risk, and reflecting a lack of transparency and denying them informed consent. Under the Malaysian Registration of Engineers Act, this would breach the Section 24B, which requires engineers to act with integrity and in the public interest. The Challenger tragedy reminds us that ethical courage and a robust support for whistleblowers are essential to prevent avoidable disasters.
To prevent tragedies like the Challenger disaster, we propose 5 key recommendations, all rooted in the Engineers Act. First, enforce strict and clear launch criteria, so safety standards cannot be compromised. Second, empower engineers' technical judgment over management pressures, giving them real authority to stop unsafe launches. Third, strengthen open communication, so all risks are shared clearly with both management and the crew. Fourth, make ethics and risk assessment training compulsory to maintain competence and integrity. And finally, establish strong whistleblower protection so engineers can report unsafe practices without fear. And by following these steps, we align with the Engineers Act to uphold public safety, integrity, and accountability. The Challenger disaster reminds us of what happened when technical failures and ethical lapses go unchecked. It clearly violated core principles of the Engineering Act, especially public safety and integrity. Our recommendations aim to ensure engineers' voices are heard and lives are protected. By upholding these lessons, we honor those lost and prevent history from repeating itself.